Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the Play Action Podcast, episode number 67. I am Will, and as always, we got Colton. Colton, how you doing?
I'm great. Well, see, you know what? Weather's nice. I was like, dang it, man. I was like, oh, we got to push our show back. I'm like, it's too nice. I'm not enjoying this weather very often here in Jersey because if you look at the next week forecast,
Miserable.
it's back in the 40s and 30s. It's like wonderful, awesome.
The 14th
So today I'm like,
seasons in New Jersey, winter, fake spring, back to
fake
winter.
spring. Yeah.
Fake
So I'm sitting there, I'm
spring
like, oh my gosh. I'm like, what the heck's going on here? I'm like, why are we doing a show today? I'm like, oh, wait. We got a big guest on tap again, a returning guest. Excited to have him back on.
Just for some,
it's a good day.
February 23rd for me is just such a great day for some reason. I saw Jimmy Fallon 5 years ago, sat front row, watched him egg himself on egg rush and roulette against Neil Patrick Harris. 3 years ago today, I was at the link, watched my Flyers return in downpouring Pennsylvania, come back 3-1 against the Pittsburgh Penguins, win 4-3 in OT. And now, today, the continuation. We got Dean Blandino. Dean, how's it going?
It's going well. I didn't realize February 23rd was such a big day, but I'm excited to be a part of that. One thing, I'm from New York, so I know I get the weather pain. I understand fake and false spring, but it's actually, I live here in Los Angeles. It's 54 degrees today in Los Angeles. And that's by Los Angeles standards, that's like frigid. So people are losing their minds here today. You got the wool caps out, the big heavy parkas and stuff. Whereas in New York, New Jersey, everybody would be in shorts and t-shirts.
Absolutely. That was me Monday golfing. I'm out here in shorts. I'm like, oh, and everyone's like walking around in hoodies and stuff. I'm like, no, shorts. I'm loving this. But Dean, appreciate you for coming back on, man.
Thanks for having me.
This is our third time talking, second time on here. Appreciate it. And well, we got a lot on tap, man. I'm excited for this show today.
We do. Oh, there's so much, but let's cue up the intro. And ladies and gentlemen, we're all here, and thank you for tuning in to the Play Action Podcast.
This is the Play Action Podcast, featuring Will.
In the past 150 days, you didn't ever decide to sit down on your damn desk and be like, hey, let's game plan this playbook. Pardon my French, but goddamn, you are an idiot, Matt Nagy.
Featuring Colton.
Good job, Bill. Golly. What a dope. You missed Brady. You made a mistake. Come out and say you messed up. Golly.
That intro will never not make me laugh.
No, and how wrong I was. I said that about the Patriots, and then little do I know, here a few weeks later, the Patriots stumbled in the playoffs, and it's like, oof, yikes. Really wrong on that one. Hats off to Bill Belichick for what he did this year. But Dean, thank you again for stopping by. I mean, geez Louise, this is, that's what, one of the other intros where I'm saying geez Louise way too many times.
Geez Louise.
But Dean, appreciate you for coming on. Start off with the Super Bowl. I thought the officiating was pretty good, to be honest with you. They stayed out of the game for the most part. I know there was the missed face mask on Jalen Ramsey and the T. Higgins touchdown. Then there was the missed false start on the Rams game-winning drive. You also had the holding call that was on Wilson that ended up being a first down, which was a huge, as it would have been a fourth down. I thought they made up for it, missing the T. Higgins penalty. I thought it all evened out, to be honest with you. I was very happy not to hear from the officials the whole entire game. I don't know what your thoughts were on the officiating, because again, I thought they did a great job, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I thought, you basically highlighted the plays where there were issues, and it was a relatively clean game, and that's always good. And you look at a couple of calls, and it did kind of even out. You'd want your officials to kind of get those calls. Obviously, the one on Higgins, that being a big play, and missing a false start, that's something you really don't want to see. Other than that, yeah, there was that defensive hold. I didn't think it was a hold. It was somewhat debatable, probably overly technical. But for the most part, right, you're talking about 155, 160 plays. They're making decisions, before each play, during each play, after each play. So if we're only talking about 2 or 3 plays, they did a pretty good job. And, I thought the two teams basically decided the outcome of the game, not the officials.
And the playoffs as a whole, besides the weird whistle on the Joe Burrow pass
Yeah.
against the Las Vegas Raiders back in wildcard weekend. It was a great weekend. It was a great playoffs for all the officiating crews.
Yeah, no, other than that, really that wild card weekend, there was some stuff. And then, the divisional round, think about those games. I mean, they were incredible games. Every game was like down to the wire and, game winning field goals at the end or overtime with the Chiefs and the Bills. And yeah, so I thought from an officiating perspective, it was really good. And when you're not talking about the officials, that normally means it's a positive. And so that was a good thing for the 2022 postseason or 2021 postseason.
Dean, last time we had you on, I called it the no fun league. The taunting rule was out and about in public. Everyone hated it. There was teams that benefited from it, my team being one of them. What were your overall thoughts on the way, shockingly, it disappeared? We saw Tyreek Hill throw it up during his run against Buffalo. No flag on it, and I'm fine with it. How all of a sudden did it disappear? It's why does the NFL do these things where like the pass interference challenges all of a sudden disappeared and we had no controversy with that? The catch stuff disappeared in the playoffs, and same thing with the taunting penalties. It disappeared.
Yeah, that tends to happen with points of emphasis like taunting, where early on it's called more frequently and there's more conversation around it. And then it kind of peters out as the season goes on. I think that's basically what happened. But obviously, you look at it from an officiating lens, and Tyreek Hill should have been called, right, for that, because that was basically the same thing that they showed the year before, why they emphasized taunting for actions like that. So, it did kind of regulate itself over the course of the season. But that usually tends to happen when you have points of emphasis. There's a spike early on, and then it tends to kind of take a downward trend as the season goes on.
So, Dean, before Will gets to his point, I know he's got something to say about this, but why do they do that? Because it's like there's only 17 games. This isn't the MLB where we have over 100 games. These games matter every weekend. And with the seventh wild card, everyone's in the mix, and we saw how many teams were in it down to the last games there. So why does the NFL mess around with these things early on where it's like, all right, cool, we can possibly cost a team a game, and all of a sudden let it slide later down the road? It's just, I don't know. Why do they do that? Because these games matter.
No question. And I always felt like, I talked to my counterparts when I was at the NFL, your counterparts in baseball and basketball, it was easier to talk to a coach about a missed call when you have 161 more games, right? But like you said, in the NFL, and same with college football, right? One game could make the difference. And so every call matters. And so I don't think it's necessarily an intentional thing. We never told the officials, hey, it's week 13, let's back off. You want to officiate the game. If you're officiating it a certain way in week 1, you want to do that all the way through, now through week 18. So the players understand, the coaches understand where the bar is, where the standard is. And you don't want to keep changing that. We saw that with pass interference in 2019, where it felt like we never could find the right, spot. And so you don't want to do that intentionally. I think there is some unintentional where the officials tend to, if they're not getting downgraded for certain calls, they may back off a little bit. Maybe the teams adjust, right? Maybe the teams understand where the line is. But it's interesting how that tends to happen from time to time, because you want to certainly make sure it's consistent across the entire season, because like you said, the games are so important.
Don't want to backtrack here, but someone in the comments here took my question I was going to ask about the change of the overtime rules. We saw the Chiefs and Bills, maybe one of the greatest playoff games. Everyone could just end up rewatching it. It was just that good. Is there any possibility in the offseason that we could see maybe a change of the rules, maybe some college OT involved, just changing up like the playoffs part of it, not really like the regular season portion?
Yeah, I think it's all on the table. I know there are some clubs that are proposing changes to the overtime rules, Buffalo being one of them, obviously being impacted in that game. I personally, I like the overtime rules where they are, but I get it, especially in the postseason where the numbers tend to, they're skewed somewhat more toward the coin toss. If you win the coin toss, the likelihood of winning the game is significantly higher in the postseason. It hasn't really played out that way in the regular season. It's closer to 50%. And, there could be reasons for that, right? You have the better quarterbacks in the postseason in theory. And, but again, I think, all three phases matter. You need to be able to step up and make a play on defense. I would hate to see a college style overtime where they just eliminate special teams altogether, because I like the fact that you keep all three phases in play. But I think we could see a change to overtime. And it might just be for the postseason, right? Where if the first team scores a touchdown, the second team would get a possession, and you do that in overtime. I think they have to be careful about the regular season because you extend the game. And I know it's only 10 minutes, but if you extend the game, now you're talking about player safety, players playing extra snaps. Maybe they got to turn around and play on a short week, play Thursday night. I think that's something you have to consider to make a change in the regular season.
Yeah, and to go off what you just said, I agree. You saw the Bengals go to the Super Bowl making a defensive stop.
Yeah.
So, and this is how it is. And to be fair, Buffalo shouldn't even have gotten to overtime if they didn't allow Kansas City to go down in 13 seconds. So, as much as I was a big Josh Allen supporter, that shouldn't have happened. Because if this is my team, I'm losing. You're not talking to me for a week because I'm going to lose my mind on everything if that happens to my team.
I gotta ask now, with the XFL and the NFL are working together, teaming up with new rules, equipment, and all that stuff. What does that mean now? Is this a partnership that can blossom into the XFL maybe becoming a developmental league for players, or letting extended practice squads?
Yeah, no, I don't think that's the case. Danny Garcia, who's basically kind of the commissioner of the XFL, for lack of a better term, has come out and said this is not a precursor to the XFL becoming a developmental league. But I think it's a partnership. It's something, it's not exclusive, but it's an opportunity for the NFL to work with the XFL and maybe test out. Maybe it is an overtime rule proposal, or maybe it's something around the kickoff or the punt, something that the league is looking at and they want to test out and they want to see it in live games. So I think that's what it's going to be. There might be maybe some technology, some other things that the XFL can test out for the NFL, but I think it's going to be great for both organizations to have that type of partnership and to be able to collaborate to make the game better. And I think that's the goal, is to really look at ways to make the game better, make it safer, and keep it the most exciting game, at least in my opinion, the best game in the world.
So now we have the new USFL. We saw the draft take place yesterday. If you want to queue up, the Opinions Podcast Network, do you see anything that the NFL might do differently? We even have some comments in here about a sky judge coming to the NFL. Anything that USFL is using that you would possibly like to see the NFL use? What's different from the 2 weeks?
Yeah, I think the USFL is going to have a kind of a more of a toned down sky judge version, where you're going to be able to maybe pick up a flag at certain times if it's pass interference or maybe something to do with player safety. And that's something we did with the XFL back in 2020. So I think that's something the USFL is going to look at. I know they're probably looking to tweak. They're going to do overtime a little bit differently, where it's basically almost like a shootout style, where one team gets a chance and then the other team gets to match. And so, yeah, I'm excited for the USFL and what they're bringing in the spring. And I think the NFL, the NFL is going to look at all of these leagues and rules and things that they're doing as, again, like we said, just to try to make the game better. And if there's something that a spring league is doing that makes sense for the NFL, I think they'll consider it. And I think that's good. That type of collaboration is always a good thing.
Do you want me to queue up this other question here from the opinions?
Sir.
All righty. Do you ever see the officials properly enforcing a targeting penalty on offense when a player uses the ball or the crown of the helmet? Yeah,
that's a great question. It's one, we look at that quite a bit. I work with the NCAA on the replay side, and we have seen examples, and there have been calls, very few, but there have been calls on the runner where the runner lowers the head and actually uses the crown of the helmet to initiate contact. I think the problem with the runner, right? The runner is typically trying to protect himself or trying to gain yardage. They're not normally trying to deliver a blow, whereas the defense is more in a position to deliver a blow. They're trying to get the ball carrier on the ground. And so just by position and by the nature of that position, the defense is usually in in a position to deliver a blow, where the runner is more in a position to kind of take on that contact. But there have been examples. I think it's something that we'll continue to look at because, again, the rules apply to both offense and defense, but it's 99% of the calls are on the defense, and there are some examples where the runner specifically is making that contact that should be targeting, and is something that we'll continue to look at.
Another question for me. I know we kind of saw, I guess, a form of a sky judge this season where there were quicker replays on things where it was kind of like, we don't need you to go there. It's kind of obvious it isn't a catch, or it's a touchdown, whatever. What are your thoughts on possibly a sky judge coming to the NFL? Because we saw that it was obvious. It was obviously a face mask on T. Higgins on Jalen Ramsey in the Super Bowl. It was obvious. There was no is there contact? It's clearly an obvious. A face mask. Do you ever see a sky judge coming in? Because how many people we saw, again, you're part of the XFL and the officiating and the rules and everything. We saw everyone loved the sky judge. It was like, oh my gosh, why isn't the NFL doing this? It's just so much faster, and it's just cutting out a lot of the nonsense that a lot of the people don't like with the NFL. Do you ever see a sky judge coming in where that fixes those little things?
Yeah, I do. I think it's going to happen. I don't know, if that's going to be next year or the year after. There's always the concern. You think about the pass interference rule back in 2019. It's a more subjective call, and I think you have to stick to things that are more objective. If it's a face mask, or maybe it's a hit on a defenseless player, and you just focus on where the contact occurs, and if it's clearly not to the head neck area, or if it's clearly a face mask, or it's not a face mask, then you can fix those things. But for every call that is obvious, there's going to be calls that aren't so obvious, and then it becomes a debate, and judgment still involved. So I don't think it'll ever be perfect where you can fix everything, but I think there's an opportunity to correct some obvious mistakes in certain situations. I think that'll make, it'll be a benefit to the game, and it'll help the officials. It'll help their credibility. And I think that's coming. And I think the league is going to talk about it in this off season, and there might be some rules proposals. I just don't know if the impetus is there to get something changed for next year, but I definitely think it's going to be part of the conversation.
Got a lot of people. We got Ryan here welcoming you back onto the pod. And also, I like this idea. Dean lightning round questions of the show. I like that part. I got one question. It's the most serious question of all time. Just how do you get that beard looking so good? Do you do it yourself? Do you have someone that does it? So I want to hear the secrets behind this.
So I've learned the tricks of the trade. So when I'm on the air, right, I go in and at Fox Sports, they have these tremendous people, tremendous wardrobe people, tremendous makeup people. And with makeup, I'm telling you, they have these, whether it's a little mascara on the beard, where maybe it's a little patchy, or they have these things. It's basically like they're like follicles, like almost like little hair follicles that they just sprinkle on, and it attaches to your real hair, and it just makes it fuller. And they do that, thankfully, knock on wood. They don't have to do that on my hair, on my head. But there are some people who are on TV that are that look like they have a full head of hair, that not so much when they, when the makeup people aren't helping them. But there's a little bit of mascara will go a long way with the beard. Trust me.
That's amazing. See, well, that honestly, who would have thought we're asking a rules expert like Dean about his beard? And honestly, it's a perfect question. Well, I love it.
It's the perfect question. I want to make sure I can get mine looking so good. I have my barber clean it up every now and again. It's okay to ask beer questions. Just make sure it's all,
I'm
good.
all for grooming questions. I love to print. I love to, trust me.
I love this, man. This is funny stuff. Here's our main man, Pots and Pans. Here he is.
Jake Funk could probably grow a better beard. Number one Jake Funk supporter.
Yeah, this is your number one Jake Funk supporter. So here's another interesting one. If you want to pop up that Joe question, because I think it's a bunch of nonsense. The game's about the players. It's not about the refs. I think the NBA hangs out their refs a lot with the under 2-minute report. I don't know. We're seeing here this comment from Joe about post-game interviews with the refs. What are your thoughts on that? I think, again, I'm going to disagree heavily. It's about the players. It's not about the refs. I don't know what your thoughts are on something like that, but I'm not a fan.
I think so. The pool report, the way that process works is they can, a member of the media can request a pool report if there's something controversial. So they notify. There's typically an observer, a league observer, someone from the league office at a game that's kind of responsible. They notify. They could go through the PR department of the home team typically, and they say, okay, we're going to request a pool report on this play. And there's a small group of designated pool reporters. So it's not like the whole, 20 people can go to the officials' locker room. It's one or two that can go to the locker room and ask the referee certain questions. And I really feel like that process, it doesn't happen very often, but it's tough because a lot of times the referee wasn't even involved in the call. They haven't seen the replays. They're basically giving kind of a canned answer. They might recite the rule. They might say it didn't rise to the level. Like the Super Bowl had a pool report with the face mask, the T. Higgins, and referee Ron Torbert, who really is not involved in that call, had to come out and say, well, it didn't rise to the level of a face mask. And I just don't know if that process really, helps when everybody at home is looking at it as a face mask, and then the referee says, well, it didn't rise to the level. It kind of undermines the credibility. And so I think that the league could do some things outside the pool report. When I was there, I used to, use Twitter. Social media is such a powerful medium to be able to get messaging out. So whether it's social media, whether it's something you can do, go on NFL Network, I think there's an opportunity for someone from the league office to be able to explain certain calls after the fact, looking at the video, being able to explain what happened, but also being transparent. And if it is a mistake, then saying, hey, this is a mistake, here's why, and here's what we're going to do to kind of fix it going forward.
I have to agree with you on that. Yeah, that's an interesting one. Joe Hackett back out here again with the NFL's partnering with the sports book. People being skeptical about the officiating. I don't, clearly you're going to always have those people. It doesn't matter what sport, saying a sport is rigged or not. I don't think that has anything to do with what's going on with the NFL. But I do think the Sky Judge, isn't that annoying though? And then we're going to get into some other stuff. We talk so much officiating with you. That's what you do. I can't wait to get into everything else we got coming up. But my final thoughts on everything with the rules. Why is it taking so long? I know I just talked about the Sky Judge, but it's going to fix a lot of the nonsense. And you're not going to have that issue with the Saints game where it's that's clearly pass interference. It's clearly going to get fixed. That's not going to happen. Clearly, everyone in America saw it. You had everyone watching the Super Bowl saw T. Higgins grab Jalen Ramsey by his face mask and go to the house. Why is the Sky Judge not there? Is that not being brought up enough in owners meetings? Get that in because it solves a lot of it.
My experience, what I've learned, it takes. Sometimes the change doesn't happen as quickly as maybe it should. You think about I remember getting the 2-point try in. That took forever. Moving the extra point, the kick back to the 15-yard line, which has been a great change. That took a couple of years. It's sometimes they want to vet it out. And I can see that. You want to make sure there's no unintended consequences. You want to make sure you vet out all the different scenarios and make sure that you're not kind of jumping into something based on emotion, which I really felt like they did back in 2019 with that Rams-Saints game. And it was more of an emotional response and making that reviewable versus kind of vetting out all the unintended consequences. So I think that's part of it. It's coming. I just, I don't know if it's going to happen this year, but it's definitely coming down the line.
Well, let me get myself all set up right here. Well, Dean will continue to answer some extra questions, whether they're in the comments or not. But let's talk about Aaron Rodgers. The saga continues, where he comes out late on a Monday night, thanking his then fiance. Just there's so much stuff that's come out about this. He goes out, thanks his ex-fiance, thanks the quarterback room, thanks really a lot of great people that he's had in his life and his NFL career so far. What's to come to this? Do we think that maybe Aaron's waving goodbye to Green Bay because he hasn't mentioned anything? I felt like he was going to say it during his MVP press conference. Well, review, all that stuff. Colton thinks he's going to the Steelers. He's been on that wagon for the last 4 months now.
On it in August. So if this
He
happens,
looked good.
Dean.
He looked good in black and gold.
That's right, Dean. All I know is, Dean, if this happens, if he comes to Pittsburgh, I'm adding you, and I better get you like tweeting out and like talking to Fox Sports. Hey, this
There you
small
go.
podcast back in August. This
This
wackadoo
was the
Steelers
guy.
fan
This
called
was the
this.
guy.
This
That's
wackadoo.
Lock this man up immediately.
Yeah, I'm a nut job, but I'm on Aaron Rodgers.
You know, Aaron, I don't know Aaron very well. I've kind of crossed paths with him here and there. I honestly look, he's a smart guy, and I honestly think he's kind of trolling everybody. I don't know, like with some of this,
I feel like he has to.
like social media is it can be fun. It can be a way to, get messaging out, and sometimes it's positive, sometimes it's negative. Sometimes I think he's just having fun with it. I don't know, I still think he's going to stay in Green Bay. I don't know for sure what's going to happen. No one has a crystal ball. But I think sometimes he likes to go on social media and create a little stir and just kind of see what happens. And this might be part of it.
We might have to wait for the next Brady Rodgers golfing pay-per-view for this.
Yes.
The outcome of this.
See, I
But
do
he
think
did-
he's a smart guy. I think he knows what he's doing. Like you guys just said, I think he's sitting there, like we all mess around and see. We like the media jumps on anything and everything any athlete says or does. And sometimes we always laugh, like the casual fans. Like I'd play around with the media all the time. Like they get in my business, I'd play around with them. I would bait them. I would set them up with things like, come on, take the bait, and they're taking this. I think Aaron Rodgers knows exactly what he is doing.
Sure. And we don't know what it's like to be in that position, to be Aaron Rodgers and to get asked those questions constantly, and to be in that type of scrutiny and that type of public eye where anything you say, anything you tweet, anything you do is being, kind of analyzed. And so again, who knows what the motives are, but I do think he's having a little bit of fun with it.
As we gotta hack it out here, he's the Kanye of the NFL. He knows what he's doing.
Yeah.
But he did go out. He posted his missing self in between Randall Cobb and Devontae Adams, because he always stands next to him during all the
Sure.
national anthems and all that stuff. So maybe he's trying to hint, or he's just just playing around, having fun. I mean, at the end of the day, all it is just having a little bit of fun, enjoying yourselves.
Yeah, it does seem like, from what I've read and from that the relationship with the organization, I think, is in a better place than it was last offseason. But, who knows what's going to happen.
So what do you think happens, since you kind of stated everything, how good it's going with Green Bay? And I think it is. You saw him thanking Matt LaFleur, and I liked his man, as much as I wanted him to be a Steeler and everything kind of happened the way I wanted. I'm like, if they lose first round, I may lose money because I did bet on Green Bay. But I'm like, this is perfect for the Steelers. He's going to be extra pissed. They got bounced. He's going to want to leave there. And they're in cap situation. I'm like, oh my gosh, this is perfect. Then I'm seeing him with this conversation on his speech. I'm like, this guy is not leaving Green Bay. This guy loves LaFleur. And I love how he said, he goes, this one's part of you too. And he's right. I think LaFleur is such an underrated head coach, to be honest with you. I think just them being Green Bay and they keep doing business as usual. They're the number one seed again. They're running the North. I think LaFleur is such a great head coach, and I think it would be an absolute mistake for Green Bay to let him go. You got to do everything in their power to make him happy.
No question. I think they'll do whatever they need to do to keep him. I think, from just putting myself in his shoes, like hypothetically, I think you have to look at, is there a situation out there that is going to give me a better opportunity to win? You talked about the division. Look, the division isn't great. They've been dominating that division. The Packers, right? They've been They feels like they've won 13 games since LaFleur's been there in the regular season. They just haven't been able to do it in the playoffs. So where's he going to go? Is he going to pull Brady went to Tampa and they won. Does he want to try to follow that? That there's risk involved there. I don't think Tampa is the same team that it was 2 years ago when Brady went there. So I think it still gives him the best opportunity to win. Right now. And I think that's at this point in his career, I think that's what he wants. He wants to win. And again, there's that being a part of Green Bay and that the history and the tradition, and to stay there. I know I wouldn't want I wouldn't want to go through kind of like a Brett Favre, the end of his career. I really feel like that was just, where he ends, he's retired, he's not retired, he's at the Jets, the Vikings, kind of bounced all over the place. To end his career in Green Bay with a Super Bowl, I think if you had told him he could, that would be a fairy tale ending for him, I think he would take it in a heartbeat.
So we got a little quarterback carousel here, a little mix and match. Can't even speak. Mix and match. We're going to start off with Aaron Rodgers. Where do you think he ends up? Because, again, you saw Denver. Everyone's like, oh, he's going to go to Denver.
Sure.
Why in the Lord would he go to Denver with Mahomes, Derek Carr, and Justin Herbert? Why would anyone sign up for that? Aaron Rodgers is not doing that. Starting off with Aaron Rodgers.
His ex-fiance was from Colorado.
Oh, gosh, nonsense.
But you said the keyword X, so now that's not a.
He missed out on 2 rings this year. I mean,
yeah,
the comment had to be said.
I think he stays in Green Bay. That's where I'm putting my money.
I feel like he has to stay in Green Bay. I feel like there's no. Oh, you're going to give up at least 3 ones for him. I mean, the asking price is probably less than what the Texans want for Watson. We'll probably end up getting to that next, but I think he has to end up staying put in Green Bay. They're going to make it all work. Let Devontae and Rodgers team up, just rule the North again. Another 2 years, see what happens from that. But let's go into Jameis Winston. Man played so well in New Orleans, torn ACL, ends the season. 6 wins as a starter, 5 wins as a starter. Where does he go? He has to be a hot commodity going into free agency now, as probably the best quarterback.
Comments right here
on the market.
Comments right here blowing up about Jameis Winston. There's a lot of Jameis Winston right now in our comments. But where do you think he ends up? Where do you think the crab stealing man goes?
Everybody, Jameis has been. It's funny. Jameis has been kind of a pincushion to some. With some of the videos that come out. He's a really good quarterback, right? He was a number 1 overall pick. I know he threw, he turns the ball over a bit too much, and that was kind of the downfall in Tampa. But he's a winner, and I could see him, maybe the Saints try to keep him. But there's a bunch of teams out there that need quarterbacks, right? Carolina, within the division. Denver doesn't have their quarterback situation figured out. The Giants, who knows if Daniel Jones, if this to me has got to be the make or break for Daniel Jones in New York. I think the Saints would be smart to hold on to him. I know Sean Payton's gone, so that's a big, what is it going to look like without Sean Payton? The offense, obviously, he's brilliant, but I would think the Saints, keeping him, re-signing him would make a lot of sense.
Yeah.
So
I was going to say
30 for 30.
30 club, Jameis Winston, baby. Yeah, I think he ends up, I wouldn't mind him in Pittsburgh. That's another guy I wouldn't mind in Pittsburgh, but I just don't trust the interceptions. I think they hit him in New Orleans. I think Sean Payton's like, all right, I have a really good defense. Let's not ruin the game here. It's
Why
there,
doesn't he
man.
go back to Tampa?
Don't put
maybe the Commanders. Maybe the
Bruce
Commanders.
Arians is
that's
not
interesting.
taking him back.
Or could we just see something crazy? He just goes to the Texans. I mean, I think he might have the quarterback journey, the Peyton Manning-esque free agency tour like he had back in 10 years ago already. It seems forever ago. Another one, Jimmy Garoppolo. I mean, it seems like he threw his last pass for the 49ers, ultimately ended with a interception on a deflected pass. Another guy that he's going to be a hot commodity.
Yeah, I think, I'd be curious. What do you think of Jimmy G in Pittsburgh? Is this guy's another guy that he's not going to light up the scoreboard, but he's been a winner. And I know he's played on pretty good teams. I could see him maybe in Carolina. It's so hard to kind of figure out where these guys are going to end up. I think he's a guy, like you said, is going to be a hot commodity, and I think there's going to be a pretty robust market for him.
Again, we got everyone poking fun. Again, of course, everyone to Pittsburgh. I'm not silly. That's not how it's going to work. Steelers don't do that.
In Madden, I traded Jimmy G to the Steelers for a 1st and 2nd round pick. So if they accept,
I'm not doing it.
I mean, I got
I'm
Big
not
Ben
trading.
as the
I'm
backup
not
for
trading a
Mr. Trey
first
Lance.
for Jimmy G. I'm not doing it. The thing is, if he comes to Pittsburgh, I don't think Matt Canada's offense is fit for Jimmy G. And that's another underrated head coach, Kyle Shanahan. That guy's such a wizard on the
Absolutely.
offensive side of the ball. I think he hides Jimmy G very well with the stuff he does with Deebo Samuel, with every four-string running back possible that they decide to bring in and start this season.
Yeah, but think about Jimmy G is one interception away from the Super Bowl, right?
Yep.
If Tart makes that interception in the NFC Championship game, we might be talking about Jimmy G as a Super Bowl champion, right? Because there's a very good chance they beat Cincinnati. So I just think you can't. The results have been there, and there's very few Aaron Rodgers and Patrick Mahomes and those guys, and so he's at the head of he's like. There's that tier 1, and then Jimmy G to me is like at the top of that tier 2.
Really? You're that? See, I'm not saying he's a bad quarterback. It's just what were teams doing that got to the Super Bowl with quarterback play? 49ers drafted Trey Lance. The Rams shipped off Jared Goff. The teams are just like, yeah, I can't win with these guys. I'm going to go upgrade, and they're doing that. And it's just like, again, Jimmy G's a winner. You're right. Belichick wanted him. Belichick wanted him to keep him in New England,
Sure.
and then it was forced out because of Brady. And then they get him in San Francisco, and he wins there. And it's like and the problem is he doesn't stay healthy. That's the problem that scares me. And they hit him. They hit him the whole playoffs when they made the Super Bowl. And then it was like, make one throw, and they went. And to be fair, I was sitting there. Jimmy G played great in the first half. He outplayed Mahomes. And then all of a sudden, he misses that throw to Sanders to win the game. And it's like, all right.
Yeah.
There he is. Like, he can't make a throw. And it's, again, you're correct. He's a winner. And they're a drop interception from going back to the Super Bowl. He's a winner. Depending what the price tag is, I would be in for him. I'm not setting a first-round pick for him. I'm not doing it. I'm just not.
Are you comfortable with Mason Rudolph going into?
No,
as your
I'm
number
not
one?
trying.
Okay.
I'm not trotting out Mason Rudolph next
There
year.
we go. Winning record, 5-4-1.
Stop it. Oh my goodness. I don't want Mason Rudolph anywhere near the starting job. Look at the AFC. Josh Allen, Mahomes, Herbert, Joe Burrow in your own division. Lamar
And
Jackson.
think of this.
The quarterbacking is incredible. In the AFC now, you think about
It
those
is
that
wild.
it's incredible, that group of quarterbacks.
Yeah, I
And
can't
dude,
send
just
out
think
Mason
of this,
Rudolph.
Colton. The Jets trade Mike White over to Pittsburgh, and you got
I hate
yourselves
you.
another Hall of Fame quarterback to be
Can
lined
I
up
kick-
right
can
after
I-
Big Ben.
Can I kick you out of this own chat for saying that nonsense? But no. Again, if you're I don't even want to say it, a second round pick, I guess I would possibly consider doing it. But for me, if you're going to trade, I'm going knocking on Seattle's door, who's the next quarterback
Sure.
probably on our carousel, Russell Wilson. Seattle says they're not trading him. I think it's full of baloney. They'll take some phone calls. I will gladly trade 2 first-round draft picks for Russell
Yeah,
Wilson.
I think Seattle will have to be blown away. That
Yes.
you're going to have to give them, like Kevin Costner in draft day is going to have all the pressure in the world, and going to have to just give him a king's ransom to get Russell Wilson away from Seattle. I think they'll run it back with Pete and Russ, and they've got to fix some things on the offensive line but I think it's going to take a lot to get Russell Wilson from Seattle.
What about Deshaun Watson? I mean, we've been hearing about this since last offseason. I made my Sam Darnold jersey that's hidden in the pile over there because I'm ashamed to have that jersey out anymore. As a Jets jersey, he was hyping up the Jets, and then everything came crashing down. We haven't really seen him since August. They want seven assets, 5 picks, 2 players.
They're going to have to.
low.
I think they're going to have to lower the asking price, and I think at some point, I can't imagine they're gonna repeat last year where they're just going to pay him to sit on the bench. I think they're going to have to, and I think teams know that. I think teams are, but it's also there's buyer beware, right? Because you don't know what's going to happen with all these civil lawsuits, and is the league gonna suspend them? But I think that's a classic example of to me from and I don't know, all the details about what happened with the allegations against him, but his play on the field certainly warrants taking a chance, right? He's that good, and he'd be an instant upgrade on most teams in the league. And so I think they're going to trade him. I don't know. You certainly like the same teams that certainly don't see him. I don't see the Steelers organization taking a chance, but maybe, maybe Tampa, with Bruce Arians, and he's been known to take on, he took on AB. That didn't really, didn't work out. Didn't end well, but, maybe that's a spot for him. There was a lot of talk about Miami, but I think they're sticking with Tua, and I know he was close with Brian Flores, but now Flores is with the Steelers, and as an assistant coach. So I don't know. I don't know where that thing is. Just it's pretty wild to me.
I also forgot too, Carson Wentz. Well, I mean, finish your thought. I kind of jumped the gun on that one.
No, it's Watson's an interesting guy. I think you hit it on the nail on the head, Dean. I think we got to wait and see how this plays out before we see any teams fully go in on Deshaun Watson. Like, I'm not trading for this guy with this bag. Like, this is a lot of baggage. And again, that's coming from a Steelers fan, Ben Roethlisberger, a long time ago with his nonsense. But this is a lot of baggage. Like, this is a lot of people with civil suits. This is a lot of baggage where it's like,
you're going to have to sell that to the fan base. You're going to have to. There's a lot of stuff that comes with that. And that's why it's so complicated. And I understand from the Texans' standpoint is they don't want to just give him away, but at some point, you can't just keep him on the roster and keep paying him, and he's not helping you win football games. It's just that doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, it's a weird thing, and the fact that the NFL hasn't stepped in already with all this stuff, it's like the Texans kind of helped. The Texans kind of hurt themselves not playing him, because where the NFL could have been like, all right, we're going to suspend you now. And then you can easily trade him in the offseason. He's already been suspended. The suspension's been done. Now you don't know what you're getting if you trade for him now. But he's a guy, if this is the only two, if I'm a lot of teams looking for a quarterback, if I'm Denver, Pittsburgh, Carolina, willing to trade assets to get a quarterback, it's Russell Wilson, Aaron Rodgers, and it's the man we just talked about. Oh my gosh, Deshaun Watson. And those are, and it kind of goes off in their own tiers. Rodgers, I'm only trading 1 first-round pick for, because you're probably he's kind of been 1 foot in, 1 foot out.
Sure.
So you're probably getting 2-3 years tops, where if you have Russell Wilson or Deshaun Watson, you have at least 6 years plus with these guys.
You'll be battling with Sony for the rights for Aaron Rodgers, as he's going to become the next host of Jeopardy probably within the next 3 years.
I hate you. But final quarterback, we kind of saw it in the comments. I even forgot about it. Carson Wentz. What's up with that situation?
Man, Carson Wentz, like that thing just did a 180. I mean, the Colts, that was like they made the trade with the Eagles. You got Frank Reich, you got Carson Wentz, and it was, it seemed to be going well. The Colts were kind of like a very sexy Super Bowl pick. Obviously, that Jonathan Taylor had an incredible year. And then it all fell apart. Now they're talking about maybe maybe he's not the guy in Indianapolis. I'd be surprised if they gave up on him, after just 1 year, basically having to give up, right now it's, that number 2 pick became second round pick became a first round pick. I don't know. I don't know where, what they're thinking. I'd be shocked if they gave up on him after just 1 year, though.
I would be too. It's too ridiculous to think, oh, hey, we're just going to move on now.
Because what's the alternative? Then we're in this kind of, and sometimes I think we get caught up in, well, our guy he's not Patrick Mahomes, he's not Aaron Rodgers. Well, okay, how many of those guys are out there that are, what's the better alternative? And sometimes there just isn't.
Speaking of Wentz, Dean, I know Will has one more. Man, you talking about 180 with the Colts. His career's been a 180. The guy was going to be the MVP the year they won the Super Bowl if he doesn't get hurt, to all of a sudden, I still think he's a good quarterback. If they cut him for some reason, as a Steelers fan, I would rather not trade for anyone, to be honest with you, because I'd rather keep the assets. The Steelers would rather keep the assets. I'd rather go get someone in free agency or rock with Dwayne Haskins, as crazy as that sounds. The fact that his career's done such a 180, like, it's kind of crazy. MVP to, again, they trade for him to yeah, we're going to cut him. What has happened with Wentz? It's crazy.
Yeah, I think I don't think it's something that he can't. He's obviously shown that he could be a top quarterback in the league. I think sometimes it's decision making. You watch some of the throws where you go, what are you thinking? And then I think he was somewhat, I'm not going to say reckless, but he wasn't. You watch guys like Aaron Rodgers and Russell Wilson, when they leave the pocket, they know how to protect themselves, right? They know how to slide. They know when to slide. They don't take unnecessary shots. Peyton Manning was great at that. Brady does a great job, did a great job with that. I think Wentz sometimes took some risks. That's how he got hurt that year, where they were kind of, they were rolling in the regular season. So I think all the talent is there. Maybe it's some decision making. Maybe it's just kind of maturing as a quarterback and as a player. And like I said, I'd be surprised if Indianapolis gives up on him after 1 year, because like I said, they were a team that I don't think anybody really wanted to play toward the end of the season, and then they just, I don't know what happened. They just kind of, that game against Jacksonville. If you would have told me they were going to lose that game, to miss the playoffs, I would have said you're crazy, and it happened.
One more quarterback. I know you got a busy schedule, but Kyler Murray, this whole thing kind of blew up out of nowhere.
Yeah. Well, I think it's somewhat similar to what I think he's looking at, right? He wants to get a new deal. You look at what he's done. He's certainly he's outperformed his contract, right? He's outperformed his rookie deal. And I don't think I think Arizona wants him to stay. I think they'll work something out. And I think that's kind of just using social media to maybe get a message out, which again, maybe not how I would do it, but that's kind of, it's a way to do it. But he'd be a guy, if they made him available, that'd be somebody you'd have to give up a lot to get Kyler Murray.
See, like, there's no way that stuff, like, oh my gosh. Imagine quarterbacks that are not even in their prime, like Murray, and I guess you can say Watson's in his prime, but like those guys touching the market, like that's unheard of. Like that, you don't see teams like, hey, I got a franchise quarterback. Like we all kind of know he's good. He's available if you're interested. Like we don't see that.
You get a franchise quarterback and you hold on to them. Like you get a guy like now with, Josh Allen, I think he'll be a Bill the rest of his career, right? That's a Justin Herbert, those guys that are coming in. You look at Lamar Jackson and that Russ, those guys are, you stay with them and you don't make them available unless it's something completely extraordinary.
See, man, I have to let you go, but like final thought, final call, it could be a quick one. How great is the league in right now? Because we're talking about these quarterbacks. Have we seen the NFL this loaded with quarterback talent? Like, again, you're seeing a lot of these guys not really whiff in the draft. They're starting to hit more. I don't know if that's because of the way the college game's starting to go, where it's just like gun, go down the field, like just slinging it. The league is loaded at quarterback. Like, you could probably name 5 teams that need a quarterback, that like technically do. Like, the league is loaded at quarterback.
Yeah, especially like we talked about the AFC earlier, with a lot of these younger quarterbacks that have come in the league have really performed well. And I think it's a combination of things. I think the game is changing. It's more of a kind of a pass first league. You look at the value of running backs and you're not seeing that as much. Jonathan Taylor and being and Derrick Henry until he got hurt being kind of an outlier. But I think the league is in a good place with these quarterbacks, and kind of they've got the next phase of, the Brady and Rodgers and Manning, and those guys were the face of the league. And now you've got these young quarterbacks like Mahomes and Justin Herbert. They're going to be the face of the league for a lot of years to come. So I think it's in a good place.
I got to ask one more question too. Just, do you have a bold prediction of anything to expect in the offseason?
Bold prediction. I don't know. I don't really, I'm not in tune. I'm not like an NFL insider in terms of a bold, just something's going to happen that we didn't expect. I don't know what, but there's going to be something where we go, whoa, I didn't expect that. And the NFL, it's like, there's always something there. It's a great reality show. And who knows? Maybe it's a big, I'll predict a crazy RG3 type trade on draft day. We're going to get a big some team's going to move up and make a big splash on draft day and surprise with that pick. That's my bold prediction.
That's a lot better than mine with the Vikings to make the playoffs.
Well, that's pretty bold. That's pretty bold.
It is bold. Oh my gosh.
But everyone, I think that's a great just round point for this episode. There's just so much to talk about. And Dean, I want to thank you again for coming on and just taking the time out. This has honestly been one of the best episodes we've had.
Yeah, thanks for having me. And anytime, just let me know. I'd love to come back on and we can do next time. We can do speed round of questions. So.
We can do the fight in circle with
fight in circle. Get the fight circle. All right, Dean, what do you got for me this time? Huh? What do you got for me, Dean? Oh gosh, it was an honor again to talk to you. Love hearing from you. Appreciate you coming on again. Give Dean a follow on all the social platforms. I mean, it's not hard. Just type in his name, Dean Blandino. You will find him. He's a great follow. Dean, appreciate everything you guys do for me and coming on the show, and for me and Will. You started off our U Stadium thing with a bang, and we appreciate you coming back on. So thank you very much, Dean. It was an honor again to talk to you.
Thanks, guys.
As always, you can follow us on the social medias, Play Extra Podcast, wherever you have your social medias. And I'm Will, and that's Colin. Thank you guys for tuning in. Tune in next week, 5 Eastern, 4 Central, for episode number 68. Later, everyone.